Hi, my name is Spencer, and I've partnered up with David today to, on the negative side, against the proposition to make English the official language of the United States. First of all, I'd like to say that the affirmative stated that immigrants should learn English. English-only policy, which is basically the policy, no matter what the bill is called that would be proposed in Congress or proposed in a state, it's known as English-only policy. So when I refer to that throughout speeches, and Amir already used the term, and it will be used more tonight, that's what that means. When English-only policy will be cut, the affirmative says that English-only policy will cut funding to English-only policy will cut funding to bilingual education, and the affirmative states that immigrants say that they want more immigrants to speak English. So the fact that English-only policy is cutting money from bilingual education, they're going against, I guess, what he just admitted the people wanted, which was to speak English. And with English as the official language, like I said, funding will be cut, and that's at the local, state, and federal level. They will no longer have to support these classes. The affirmative also stated that 2/3 of foreign-born adults say that immigrants should be expected to learn English. And back to my earlier point, these lessons and classes should be provided for or partly funded by one level of government or another, but again, with English-only policy, it would be prevented. And there's actually according to faculty.edu, there was over 40,000 people on the wait list to take English courses in Los Angeles County alone, and with funding being cut beyond that, that's 40,000 plus that will no longer be able to take those classes, when apparently that's what they want, and cutting it is not right. And the affirmative also states that money will be saved, and that the money saved can go to things like education. Well, money would be taken away from bilingual education to go towards English-only education. So basically, the English-only policy is deciding which education is more important and sending it towards that side of the education. And it's not just like adult classes that immigrants can take, it's also when immigrants have their kids or they come with their kids, that there's actually special classes for people whose English isn't their first language, and that would be cut. So then that would even decrease the rate that people learn English, if they learn it at all. And the problem of the budget is not caused by bilingual education, by printing ballots and such in multiple languages. The U.S. spends approximately $3.5 trillion per year, and it's only a few $million to spend on bilingual education. So if you were to cut a few million, well, you wouldn't even cut it, because like the affirmative stated, they want to spend it on another side of education. So there would really be no effect. Even just a few $1 million wouldn't do much. And you're not creating, like I said already, you're not creating a few $1 million, you're just moving it to another part of education away from people that still need it. A few $1 million, what is that compared to equal rights for people? According to faculty.edu, there's approximately 10 million people in America that have poor English literacy, meaning people that not just can't speak English, but literally have zero or very little. I have a quote from, again, faculty.edu, that English-only policy could bar government's provisions of non-English language assistance and services. For example, some restrict bilingual education programs, prohibit multilingual ballots, or forbid non-English government services in general, including such services as courtroom translation or multilingual emergency police lines. This can be, like the police lines, that can be a very big issue, especially for people with who don't speak English, for those 10 million people. The Washington Times reported in 1987 that a 911 emergency bilingual dispatcher saved the life of a Salvadorian woman's baby son who had stopped breathing by coaching the mother in Spanish over the telephone to administer mouth-to-mouth until the paramedics arrived. So that's just one life saved, but again, we can't put a value on a human life, but a few $1 million, not just for equal rights for voting, but to possibly save another life just to have someone who can speak another language on the job, I believe that's worth it. The affirmative also states that English-only policy would pretty much only affect papers done in government business. If this in fact is true, if the government is doing something, everyone has the right to know about it, not just people that can read English and can look up the papers for themselves. For example, the United Nations is considered one of the most important international organizations, and of course translation would be stopped for this organization, and that would be an exempt from the law, but if these politicians don't have to learn English to do business with the United States, why do immigrants have to? And America has been multilingual since before the creation of the United States itself. Not only have we been multilingual, but it has been clear for more than 200 years that we want to keep the United States with no official language, because back in 1780, John Adams failed to establish English as the official language because it was deemed unconstitutional all the way back then. And there's been multiple instances since then where the Supreme Court has again deemed it unconstitutional. Today there's more than 300 languages spoken throughout the U.S., and it's not fair to pick one.